Hi guys, how are you today? I'm so happy to be here with our first live project. There are a few things I want to talk about before we get jumping in on this. So this is a project, it's like due anytime. And the reason why I go live and do projects from start to finish in my groups and in my classes, hi Sue, is because, hi Kim, because I feel like throughout the process of creating, nobody's perfect. And so as I create, when I'm doing my finished like videos that are in the library, they're very planned out and prepped. Whereas like a live project is different because you're going to see me kind of get stuck on some things, or maybe things don't happen exactly the way you want them to all the time. And that happens to me too. And so I feel like it's a great opportunity for you guys to ask questions and to see me problem solve as I go through the process. Whereas with recorded videos, I've already got everything like pretty planned out and like exactly the way I want it. I practice it before I do it. Whereas this is kind of like I plan it out, but I really want you to see the different ways you can manipulate in Design Space. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take a screen recording while I'm doing this live. And that way you'll have that quality video from the screen with my voice, but we'll also be doing it live right now so that I can see your questions as we go. So if I don't get to them as I'm doing this, then I'll go back afterwards and answer your questions. And certainly if you're watching this, if you don't see the little red live up there, then you know you're watching replay, hit hashtag replay, and I'll still answer questions even if it's like a week from now. So don't feel any rush to do this right along with me, but I do think there's some value in going live and doing a project from start to finish. So today we're going to be doing a 12 by 12 board sign for spring. And I picked a project that was pretty broad in the sense that you can pick a lot of different things I'm giving you, it's almost like an outline of something you could do, but you could customize it really quickly and easily. And in this live video, I've thought about what it is that are in the first few content library video classes. And I'm going to try to kind of highlight those skills and strategies in this live project. The next one we do might have like more to it because maybe you would have already had some time to watch some of the beginning and the end content library videos. And so I've still got two I haven't uploaded yet, so I will do that. But I kind of wanted to give you bits at a time so that you weren't overwhelmed all at once with too many things that you felt like you had to go look at. So, so hi Jean, thanks for hanging out today. So you guys will have to ignore my big bushy blob of hair as we're doing this. I'll try to keep it out of the video. Hi Cheryl. So we're going to be talking about grouping, attaching. I'm going to be showing you how to move images into different places and how you can manipulate the letters and different things like that today. We're not going to get into, well, we'll do probably one thing where I can show you how to do slicing in action too, because that's a technique or a tool that I use all the time in my designs. So hi Becky. So I was just telling everybody this is very different than watching one of the class videos because you get to see the process and you get to see me get maybe hung up on a couple things and see how I problem solve, whereas the other videos are very clean and to the point and direct information. So that I think this has some value in a different way. So as you guys watch, if you have questions, let me know. The more you know, the more questions you'll have. And so that's totally, totally great. If you're having questions, it means that you're learning more. So we're going to be making a welcome to our home sign today. And I'm going to show you how to create this image, how to change out the O for different images. And I'm using Cricut Access today. And so if you have a subscription, some of these things may be free. And then when we're done, I'll share this in the group. So if you don't want to have to design it and you want to just use it, and you can do that, but you would still have to pay for the images that I have to pay for. Even with the subscription, sometimes you have to pay for things. But I think I think everything I picked was included in the subscription so that if you have it, you're not having to pay anything extra. I don't know if that makes sense. But if you have questions about that, let me know. And then we will get into this week how to upload files from the computer. I did one yesterday of how to do that from free files from your iPad and your iPhone. So there are other ways that you can do, like you can plug in a lot of things for this image here that would really customize and appeal to a lot of different people, or appeal to your, something you love in your home. So we're going to get started. And I'm going to start from the beginning, but before I get started, I'm going to start a screen video here. I've got all these crazy windows going on. So we're creating it. We have a new website that we're going to be launching soon. So we've been working really hard on that, and you can see they're all over the place here. So I'm going to just do a quick, something really quick just to get my screen to record what I'm doing. Let's see here. So for some of you, this might be helpful if you ever want to record your screen, even if it's just for your own purposes, to go back and remember how you do something. Holy moly, what's going on here? Then I'll show you how to do it. You have to have QuickTime Player. And I'm cleaning up my screen here. And then what is happening? QuickTime Player, and I'm going to go to File, and I just go to New Screen Recording, and then I click on this, and then you click anywhere on your screen to start recording. And this little guy here, once that turns black, it means that it's recording. So I'm going to go to my Cricut Design Space and launch it. So do you guys have questions about how to even get on Design Space, or are most of you at that point where you've, registered your machine, that you've got the app on your phone or on your iPad, or you've downloaded it on your computer? If you have tech problems, I could help a little bit, but Cricut really has a really good support team, and they do like instant chatting and all that stuff. You could also call, and some people just like to call and get somebody on the phone to help them. But let me know if you're stuck on that, because I don't want that to stop you from jumping right in full speed ahead. So when you get into Cricut Design Space, you're going to see, you can go to new projects, they're ready to make. I'm going to go into new projects. Why is this doing that? Save page as. I think it's because I left my other screen. Here we go. Okay. All right. So I'm in my canvas. So you should be able to just click on new project, and it will take you into a new screen. If you had been working on something and didn't save it, sometimes it'll say, would you like to replace or go back? If you're not sure if you saved it, just go back to that original one, save it, get out of it, and then go into a new mat so that you don't lose work that you've done. All right, so we're going to be making a welcome to our home sign today. And I've got all these fun springtime images that we're going to play around with, but I'm going to start from the very beginning of how I even got to this point. Okay, so I'm going to move this over here. But sometimes it's nice to see like where we're going before we start learning about all the details, all right? So I'm going to kind of move these things out of the way. I want you to kind of ignore them for now, just because we're not like using them right this moment. All right. So I want a fancy welcome, and a lot of times it's when you want like a word or a certain kind of lettering, it's not all the fonts come connected like that or looking like that when you type them up separately. So I thought I'd just see what Cricut Access had already put together for the word welcome. So I'm going to go into my images up over on the left hand side, and then I'm going to go here in my search box. I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to look for welcome. I just want to see like what's already designed for the word welcome. All right. So I'm going to show you how to take something that Cricut Design Space has and then kind of use it in a way that makes it your own today. All right. And you can, this can apply to so many different projects. So I'm just going to kind of scroll down, and I just want the word welcome. And there's one over here with a little flourish underneath. You guys can probably see that. But I'm going to keep going down. I hope I'm not making you dizzy. And there's this one here. There's this one here. So you can take what they've made and you can play around and manipulate their designs already too. And we'll probably get to that in the next project. I just want to do some of the basic things today because it's our first one together, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail. But just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So I clicked the welcome that I like. And let's say I just wanted to see, let's say I'm going to pick 2. So you're going to notice at the bottom of your screen that anything you select are down here. And there's something I want to show you too, which I didn't realize at the beginning, is even if you go out of the search for welcome, let's say I go into, let's say I want to look for a flower. Your welcome choices are still down at the bottom. All right. So you don't have to worry about like researching for something. You're still going to have your choices down there. And that's something I don't think I realized for a little while. So I was worried that if I searched for something else, I would lose my bar of choices down here. So let's pick a flower. I've got a couple of them already in there. We'll pick one more just for fun. Let's see. So many flowers to choose from. That sometimes is the hardest part, you guys, is narrowing down what it is you want. So when I'm looking through here, though, I really don't want something that's going to be super tiny and detailed because I'm thinking about the size of my letter. So I'm working on a 12 by 12 board. I don't want to pick something, you know, my image is not going to be 12 by 12. If it's going to replace the O in the home, it's only going to be, you know, maybe, you know, a few inches in size, you know, height, and maybe a couple inches wide at the most. So if I pick something like that with a lot of detail, oh my gosh, the weeding, you guys, would be really, really tricky unless I somehow welded all that together. So we're going to pick something that has like some really easy defined shape that isn't too like crazy to work with. You know, let's do this one right here. Okay. I'm going to click on that. So I've got a flower, I've got my welcome choices, and I'm going to insert images. All right, so I've got to start here. I've got this welcome. I'm going to move that. I don't know what happened to my other welcome. La-di-da. Maybe it didn't land in here. So this is why it's good to go live and do projects, because this is like the real deal. This is what happens when you're making things yourself. So I'm going to go back to images and see if I can throw another welcome in. I don't know what happened to that guy, but. And I just want to compare and see. I kind of have a vision in my mind of what I want to make. And I just want to compare the different welcomes and see which one's going to work better with my design. So let's pick this one again and insert. And I don't know, maybe it landed somewhere and it's just super small. There it is. Oh, it just was slow. All right. So sometimes I guess you just have to be patient. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and like just keep this one aside. And do you see how that one kind of has an angle and this one's straighter? I'm kind of keeping that in the back of my mind too with my design of how I want to sit my letters and all that stuff. All right, so we've got our welcome. And I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bigger so you guys can see. All right, and in order for me to really change up the size of that, I need to go to this little left-hand box down in the corner and click unlock. And that's going to allow me, and some of you may be past this point, but I'm just going to kind of walk through each step so that everybody that's watching can get the gist of it. I'm going to go ahead and change the size. Let's say I want the welcome to be a little bit smaller. And I'm not going to worry too much about my sizes yet until I really get my design where I want it to be. All right, so there's the welcome. Now for the text, I'm going to type out to our home. And because in my mind, I want my home to be bigger, I find it easier just to type these pieces out separately. So to our is going to be in one text box and the word home is going to be in another text box. So I'll show you that. So I'm going to click on the left-hand side where it says text. Let me know if you guys can't see this and I'll pull you closer. So my text box ends up down here. Move my microphone. And I'm going to type in 2 hour. All right. And so there it is. And I'm just going to move this closer. I'm just clicking and moving. That's all I'm doing there. And I'm not going to worry about centering it yet until I have all my bits and pieces in place. Because after I center and align everything is when I'm going to group everything together. All right. So, whoops, my thing is super, super sensitive. So, all right. So I think I want 2 hour to be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to unlock it again. And I'm just going to move this in. All right, and I'm going to put it right about where I want it. You know, it's okay. All right, so then if I wanted to do a different font for home, I definitely could. But I'm going to keep it a little bit clean because I'm going to be adding images and I don't want my eye to get too confused. So you're having a hard time seeing where my mouse is going. Okay, so that's why I'm doing a screen video so that I will post this video because it'll give my mouse a little circle around it like on the training videos or the content library videos that I have. But I can also use my finger and kind of show you where I'm going. So my mouse is right here, right around the 2 hour. And I'm just, see if I can get you a little bit closer. I don't want to mess up my setup here, but can you see it now? And so you see where my mouse is on the X. So if I wanted to get rid of that, I would click on X. If I wanted to turn that at an angle, I would use this little guy in the corner. The little half circle with the arrow would help me turn it around, right? But for now, I'm just going to leave it as it is and kind of leave it in place, all right? So now I'm going to go over to where it says text again, here in the corner, that T. And I'm going to make another text box. And it's down here. I can't really move that right now. So, and I want all capitals. So I'm just going to shift all capitals. It doesn't have to be, but I kind of like that. So again, I'm just clicking down on my mouse and dragging this up here. All right, that's all I did. So now I'm going to, this little guy right here, that's the lock symbol, I'm going to click that so it unlocks it. All right. And then I'm going to I want this to be my dominant word in my sign. I want them to really see that home. So I'm going to just, you know, make it as big as I want it. And I'm not going to worry about centering right now. That's going to be, the alignment is going to be closer to the end of my design. And I'm going to show you what all these different things look like where the O is. We'll get to that, but right now I just kind of want to show you like how to do the basic stuff. All right, so there's that. And we'll talk about grouping and attaching too. So I've got my home, but you know what? I don't really want the O, right? I want to put an image in that spot. So, the font for our home, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking that because I think it was already in my thing, is typewriter STD regular. And if I wanted to change the font, let's say I want to change the font, I'm going to go right here where it says font. And so I had typed in this search bar right here, typewriter, because I knew that was the type of font I wanted. But what I can do is I can, let's say I want cake basics or whatever. That's like a pretty generic font. Or maybe I want simple. There's certain fonts that I use all the time and I know the names of them, and you will too after you get going. And you can see over here, you guys, that little A next to the name of the font. That little A means it's part of my Cricut Access subscription. So so I just, you know, I just know that I'm not going to have to pay for it. So, how do you save your favorite font? I don't save it because I just know the name of it. But I bet there's a way to do that. I could look into that for you if you'd like. So let's do straight and simple. I'm just going to click on that. And so now that's going to change my home. Do you see how that changed it? So just because you pick a font initially doesn't mean you have to stick with it. So the other thing I sometimes do is I'll highlight my box, just click on it, and then I go up here to the right. See where it says duplicate? I'm going to click on duplicate. And I just want to see, maybe I want to be able to compare what the two different fonts look like in that grouping. So I'm going to show you. And once you buy a font in Cricut Access, and I said this in the class videos, I call them training videos, but they're just like class videos. Once you buy a font in Cricut Access, if it's not part of the subscription, you own it. Like, you don't own it in the sense of like you can sell commercially your designs, but you own it in the sense of like you don't have to keep buying it every time you want to use that font. It's there for you to use. Then it becomes part of your subscription. So I don't know if that makes sense. I have to type it back out. I haven't figured out. Okay, so Catherine, you definitely don't have to type it back out. You can just go to do the same thing. Go to where it says edit. So on the bottom on an iPad, I'm trying to remember this without looking at it. On the bottom bar is where your edit thing is. You have to hit edit, and then over here on the left is where your text choices are. And then you can scroll through your text and click on the one you want, and it'll change your your font. Does that make sense? Try that, because I think that's all you need to do. But the thing about the iPad is unless you hit edit, it doesn't, and you don't have something highlighted, you hit edit and then it will pop up. But otherwise it's not just sitting there like waiting for you, I don't think, that text box. So you have to edit to do that. And you have to have something highlighted so it knows that you want to edit something, if that makes sense. Because typing it back out would be a big pain, right? Right? It's those little things that like took me forever to figure out that I'm hoping to save you guys time and energy on. So this is why doing a live video, even though it's not as straightforward, it's still super beneficial in a different sort of way, right? All right, so let's say I want to combine, like I want to see which one I like better. Let's do another font for this. Let's go up here to font. And let's just scroll through, because now I can just, let's see, I don't even have to type in a name of a font. I can just scroll through my fonts and see what kind of catches my eye. Let's try Alexis and see if we like that, like just to see. All right, so that's more, you know, swirly whirly. I would want to definitely bring that up a little bit. And I don't really care for that there, so I'm just going to click it off and get rid of it. Okay, if I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't want to get rid of that and I shouldn't have done that. It's just like with, you know, like Google Docs. You can just go undo and there it is. Okay, so clicking it away. I think I'm just going to go back to the typewriter font. So let me click up here. So if you don't know the names of fonts, your best bet is to just look through them and get familiar with them and try them out. And just click through and, you know, click on one that you think looks cool in this area and then give it a go and see what happens. Some of them are just going to be for writing, like this one here says writing. So that's when you're using the pen. And that wouldn't work for a cut file. And you can kind of tell because it's super, super skinny. So that wouldn't leave the blade very much room to cut around the font. Who can I duplicate? Becky, can you write that? What do you mean, who can I duplicate? How can I duplicate? So to duplicate, you're just going to highlight what you want to duplicate. And if this were all grouped and attached, I could and I'll show you guys how to do that at the end. I could duplicate this whole thing. But right now, let's just do this. So I'm going to go up to here to the right-hand corner and click on duplicate. All right. And there you are. I've got another one. Okay. So the other thing I want to tell you though is on the iPad, duplicate is an action. So you have to click on actions at the bottom. And then I think it comes up, and if you scroll over to the right, I think the duplicate's right there. So that's the other tricky thing about this is iPad versus, you know, the computer. But Becky, let me know if you can't find that on your iPad and I can help you with that if you're using an iPad or an iPhone. So, all right. So I'm going to get rid of this too. And I'm going to go back to my font, which is, what did I say? Typewriter. Even if I just type in, there's a few different typewriter styles. If I type in type, then all of them will come up. So I'm just going to do the American, wait, which one am I doing? Yeah, the American typewriter font. This one's too thin. This one's a writing font. And I need something that will cut. This one I think is the one actually that I was using before. Let's try that. Okay. Yeah. So now I'm going to go here with a little unlock it, and then I can play around with the size. Okay. So I definitely want that to be the most prominent thing on my sign. Maybe not quite that big. But when you're doing this, don't worry so much about, oh my gosh, my board is 12 by 12. Just think about the shape board. Like, is it long and narrow? Is it long and tall? Is it square? And be thinking about that more than anything. Because at the end, you're going to group it and you're going to adjust the sizing. All right, so don't get too carried away with that because you'll create extra work for yourself for no reason, because you're just going to have to go back and change it anyway. All right, so now we're going to ungroup this word home because I want to get that O, I want to kick that O out of there, right? So I'm going to go ahead and highlight it. And again, I'm just clicking on it. And I'm going to go over here to the right. And same thing on the iPad, it's down at the bottom. And if you click on actions, ungroup will come up, okay? If it's ungroupable, it'll come up. Excuse me. So I'm going to go to ungroup. And let's just see what happens. All right, so now, see, now I can move my E, I can move my M. Do you see how that boxes, those separate boxes? That means that word is now ungrouped. So now I can manipulate it any way I want. If I want it to go in a curve, which I'll be teaching you guys how to do at some point too, but I kind of want to get the basics down first. So I can get rid of this O, or I can say, you know what, I'm not totally sure that I want to get rid of it yet, so I'm going to just leave it over here, okay? But I could just click on the little X and get rid of it. So that's to look at, all right? So I'm actually going to... All right, so then I'm going to look at this welcome because we're kind of like in this section. You know what I don't like about this welcome, if I wanted to try it out, just real quick, because I kind of want to clean up my screen a little. I don't like that it goes at an angle like that. So I'm going to get rid of that. I've decided I don't want that welcome. I'm going to keep this welcome here. All right. Okay, so now is the fun part because you get to really customize the home now. So you could pick, like, I'll go and show you, let's say I'm like, you know what, I'm going to make this sign for someone who loves camping in the spring or summer. So I'm going to go into images. This is my next thing. Or maybe I know somebody who loves working with flowers or loves the garden. I could make that the O. I know someone who loves vintage bicycles. That might work with the O too. So I'm thinking about simple images that would take the place of an O. A lot of times I've done like an old truck and I've added little flowers on the back and people love that. It's so cute. So there's lots of different things you can do with this. So this is a technique you can use in like a million different ways because you can make welcome signs the same way. I mean, there's a lot of different projects you could do with just this basic idea and these tools in mind. Okay. So now I'm going to space my home out a little bit because I definitely am going to need more room here for whatever image. So in order to make a collection of images that I'm thinking about, I'll show you how I did that. I'm going to get rid of these so you can see what I did. I'm going to keep this one because this one was a little bit harder to find, but I don't want to have you guys having to scroll through a billion different things. This one I'm just going to keep. All right, so I'm going to go over here to the left and go to images again. And I'm going to look for, did I get rid of the camper? Now I can't remember. I got rid of the watering can. So let's type in watering can. And remember, this is if you watched my videos, what is happening? That's so weird. Never had that happen before. But this is, again, why it's good to go live, because you'll see that everything doesn't go always so easy breezy. Come on. So it's so weird. I wonder if something's going on with my Wi-Fi. Go back into Canvas. And you know what? Just because I'm nervous about that, I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to save it as Spring Home. Okay, so I clicked here to save, and I'm going to save it as Spring Home. Because I don't know what's going on with my Wi-Fi right now. Okay, so at least I know it's saved. That's good. So let's try that again. Images. All right, so now it pulled up the watering cans. It was just like one of those glitchy things that just sometimes happens. So, so now it brings up, so I talked about this in one of my videos. It's not a clean search. So in other words, it's not just going to bring up watering can. It's going to bring up anything to do with watering, anything to do with can, anything watering can. So you sometimes have to search through more of the images than you might like. But so I found this one down here, and I like this one because it's already got the flowers in it. But if I wanted to put flowers in one, I could do that too. Like that'll be like the next, probably in the next one, I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to click on that. That's going to go in. Let's see what else. And I know it's there because it's right here in that little circle. Let's see. Let's look for a camper, and then we'll do a flower. All right, so we could do, you know, a couple different things. This one's going to have a lot more weeding and details on it, so I'm going to stay away from that one because I want something that's kind of simple. This one's not going to be just a cut file. You can see right there, that's a print file. Down here, print file. There is a print then cut option, and that's a whole different thing that we can get into, maybe in a different class. But I think I'm going to pick this one here and just insert the image. Actually, I'm going to look for flowers now too before I insert them all. I want something that's, I know I've got a flower already in there, but maybe I want like a couple choices. I like this one. It's got some layers. It resembles as an O. So I'm going to, okay, now I've got 1, 2, 3 images. If I want to get rid of any, you can just click on the X and they'll go away at the bottom, okay? So now I'm going to click on Insert Images, and there they are. All right, that was pretty easy, right? And earlier, I think I typed in bicycle, and this came up, and I'll show you how to take that flower away. I already did one video with that, but I'll show you again. Sometimes you have to see things a couple times. So this flower one, do you notice how there's like all kinds of different layers and things going on? And the different colors just mean that they're all different pieces, okay? So, okay, Cheryl's asking, what's the difference between a cut and a print file? So a print file is if you want to just make a print of that, like, because a lot of people use the Cricut for, excuse me, for like card making and stuff. So a print file would be something that you would send that image to the printer and not to your Cricut. A cut file is something that's going to cut the image. And then a print then cut is a whole different thing that we're not going to get into in this class. They make something called printable vinyl. And what you can do is you can put that through the printer. Okay. And so the printer will draw the image or print the image on the vinyl itself, but it takes a special kind of vinyl to do that. And then you could take that image and cut the silhouette around it with the Cricut. But that's a whole nother, like, I don't do a lot of that stuff, but that is like, it's not a hard thing to do. It's just not something I'm ready to teach yet. But I think that's a whole, I think you just stick with those cut files, and some of them, like, you can draw and cut too. And we can talk about that. Do you see over here where it says layers? Do you see where it says cut, 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 cut? You know, all those are cut files in your layers. Okay. And you can tell just by looking at that. But here, you can also tell that you've got a bunch of different layers for your flowers. And I pretty much want this to be all one layer. I want it to be like one solid silhouette. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to go ahead and highlight it. And then I'm going to go down in the bottom right and whoops. And you see where it says weld? I'm just going to click on weld. And that pulls everything together. So now it's all one cut file, which makes it much cleaner and easier for me to work with if I just want to do, you know, a simple image, like a silhouetted image. So I hope that's helpful. So I could put that there, right? I'm going to go ahead and unlock it. I'm going to move this guy over. So I'm going to try different things in the home. I'm going to move this to like the size that I think would look good. And again, I'm not going to worry about alignment so much yet. But if I wanted to make sure this was aligned and centered, let's say I was like, oh yes, I definitely want to do the watering can in the home, okay? And I also want to pay attention to like, am I distorting the image? Because sometimes if I did this, my watering can would look funky, right? So I have to pay attention to that. I have to pay attention to the proportions of the image and kind of play around with it. And maybe I'm okay with my flowers going up and over, or maybe I want it to be completely centered. And if I want it to be completely centered, what I would do is I would highlight the whole word, just like that. I just held my mouse down, dragged it across the word. And then I'm going to go up here to align. It's only going to let you align if you have something highlighted, okay? It'll say print. It'll say print right on it, Becky. Good question. And I'll go back and show you guys when we're done maybe what the difference when you look in the images. Okay, so I've got this all highlighted here and now my alignment is popped up. So now I can use that. So now I want to center it vertically because I want those lines, everything to kind of line up in the center. And it gives you these little images so you can kind of see. On the iPad, it's different. It's going to be down below and you're going to go to edit and then align. All right, so center, let's see, where did I say? Center vertically is what I want to do. So now I know my H&M are lined up, my flower can's centered in the middle. You know, if I felt like it was too big still, I could make it smaller still because I haven't grouped it. I can just, if you just highlight it, then you can move it around and it's grouped, but not permanently grouped. Does that make sense? It's just movable. You can move it as a group, but when it goes to cut, it's not going to be grouped. So we'll talk about that in a little bit too. So let's try a few different things. So now I'm like, you know what? I already made one for Sally who loves gardening. Now I want to make one for someone who's like Mrs. Home and she's from New Hampshire. This one is gorgeous, but keep in mind, this would be cool for spring because it's all like botanicals, but it's, and they have all different state images. So you can look up Indiana or Kentucky or wherever you're from and they'll have one. But just keep in mind the cutting and the weeding on this one would be, whoa, a lot. Unless you were doing a sign, let's say your whole sign was that and you were making like a 8x8 sign. Then that wouldn't be so bad. I mean, it would still be a lot of weeding, but it wouldn't be so bad because you're working with a bigger space. So all your pieces are going to be bigger, which are then easier to weed and prep. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind because you don't want to get into a situation where you spend a lot of time designing something and you go to cut it and like it's a hot mess because the pieces are way too tiny. So, you know, when you think about this is going to be a 12 by 12, so like my letters are probably not going to be more than a couple inches each, you know. So if I were making a gigantic sign, you know, this would be a cool O because those would be a lot bigger. So I just pulled that up just to show you the difference. Because although sometimes those are tempting, what you could do instead is let's say you have, I'm going to detach this so I can steal this little guy. I'm just ungrouping this whole thing so I can steal this image because I don't want to have to go searching again. So let's say I typed in New Hampshire and I found this image and I selected it just like I did with the watering can, just like I did with the camper and the flower. Let's say I know my friend Sally loves New Hampshire and she loves gardening. I could do the, there's a way to do the image, and then you could actually put the garden, you know, a small little watering can on the image too, and have that cut out. Oh yeah, Catherine. You're so funny. And I will show you how to do that. So let's just play around and see what we like. And you guys can help me decide what looks best. So we've got this guy. Do you see how I unlocked it and I'm just kind of playing around with it to see like what, there's that. That looks pretty cute, right? And let's say I wanted to make, I really like that, but I also know I want to make one with a camper. I would just select this, okay? I want to make sure that everything lines up, so I'm going to go to align. I'm going to align it through the center, center horizontally. So that's going to go, that's actually going to line everything. Even though it's vertical, it really is horizontal. So now, whoops. Do you guys see what just happened? So this is good. This is why I do the live. Okay, so I'm going to go back. That messed everything up, right? Does anybody know why that just happened? When I went to center it and group, and it was in the one group and I went to center it, why the letters got smushed together? I missed a step. So I'm going to show you what happened. My letters are still separate, okay? So when I just hit align, it aligned everything in the center. Yeah, it's not close. It's not grouped yet. So I need to group and attach this image. Now that it's centered and where I want it, I'm going to highlight the whole thing. I'm going to go over here to the right-hand corner and do group. All right, and then I notice down here my attach option is still available. So I'm going to go down there and click on attach. And let's see what happens here. Let me go back actually. Do that one more time. So these aren't grouped yet. So in order for me to align that, I need to group just those together. Let me back up a little bit here. So I'm going to go to group. I'm going to go to attach. Okay. So now I know that my home with the flower is all one piece. Okay. So now though, let's say I had it over here and I really want to make sure the whole thing is centered. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight the whole thing. And I'm going to center it horizontally. There we are. Okay. Do you guys see the difference there? Now it's all one, you know, it's all aligned, but I can still click on these separately. So my image is not one whole grouped image still because I haven't done that step yet. I do want to pull this up a little bit, but be careful when you do that. It can throw off the alignment. All right, you're confused with group, attach, or weld. So the group and attach kind of work together. The grouping kind of pulls everything together. The attach makes sure that it cuts all as one group. So you can group things to like have them on your editing section so that you're moving them together and you're aligning them together. But when you go to cut it, in order for it to cut together, it needs to be attached as well, if that makes sense. The weld is a little bit different. The weld is like what I just did to this watering can. Do you remember how it was all different layers and pieces? To get them all to sort of like melt together, think about it that way. That's when you're welding. So all those layers become one. Whereas these weren't really layers, these were separate pieces. These were layers because they were stacked on top of each other, if that makes any sense. And I'll look to see if I can find a better explanation for that. All right, so now I still have these separate pieces, you guys, and I want this to cut all as one because I know it's going to fit on my 12 by 12 mat. I don't want to make any more work for myself. If I have to cut them separately, I can, but if I want to cut them all at once, that's so much easier for me. I know everything's lined up. I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to highlight, and then I'm going to go back to the upper right-hand corner and hit group. And then if I want it all to cut together, I'm going to hit attach down at the bottom. All right. So there we go. And now if I want to play around with the size of it, I'm like, you know, it looks a little small for a 12 by 12 board. But keep in mind, when you buy lumber, a 12-inch wide board is really more like 11 1/4. So I'm keeping that in mind. I'm also keeping in mind that I want about 1 inch around the entire thing. So if my board is like, you know, let's say 11 by 11, right? Or 12 by 12, I want to go 1 inch smaller in each direction at least. Because I want to leave some room around the edges. I don't like my letters to line up exactly at the edge of the wood. I just feel like it looks, there's something just funky about that. So, I mean, it's fine if you like that. You can certainly do that. So I'm going to do like a 10 by 10-ish, or even like, it doesn't even have to be square. If I get it stretched out and I'm like, you know what, that looks weird to me. That makes the flower look weird. It can still be 8.5 by 10 if I want it to be. It doesn't have to be, you know, let's do this. So now you can see my measurements here. This is going to be my width and this is going to be my height. So I'm going to go ahead and, whoops, I'm sorry. This is going to be, the bottom is my width and the side is my height. So let's see, I'm going to get that down to 10. And I stretch this to 10. I think 9 looks pretty good. And it's not going to look super small on my board or anything. I'm just going to have a nice bit of room around the edges. Let's see. Almost 9.5-ish by 10. There we go. So we'll have like a 1/2 inch around the entire thing, which is a good, at least a good amount of room. What if you wanted to make your words a different color, like when the watering can had the flowers? Hold on. Different colors. Okay, good question. So the color you're seeing on the screen is just for your own visual, like, because you can paint them whatever colors you want. Right? You can use whatever color paint or whatever. So you have to use if you're going to use the black, you can use your imagination. But let's say we want to get a visual. We want to see what this is going to look like. When this cuts, you can still paint the flowers any color you want. You're going to have the whole silhouette there. So you could still do that. So you could just paint those different colors. Do you know what I mean? So this is just the designing side. So this doesn't necessarily reflect what it's going to look like painted. But if I wanted to, I could say, okay, all right, let's ungroup this. Let's say I want to see what this would look like in different colors. I'm going to go down to the bottom. I have to detach first. And then I have to, let's see, I have to highlight it again. And then I have to ungroup. Okay. So detach and then ungroup. And now I've got my separate pieces. Okay. So maybe I even want the flower a different color. So I would have to detach and ungroup the home to do that. Right. Let's see, highlight it again, ungroup. So anytime you're working with something specific, you have to make sure it's highlighted so it gives you the options. So you could certainly, though, Cheryl, you could have printed this up the way it was before, and it would have given you separate stencils for each piece of the flower. Does that make sense? So it would have given you like maybe the inside design of each flower. But if you're making that watering can super small, be careful about that, because the Cricut's not going to be able to cut, like, if your watering can is 1 inch by 1 inch and you've got little details of the flowers on it, it's not going to be able to cut that small, if that makes sense. So so just be careful if it were bigger, and you wanted to get those details that you saw before that were all the different layers, you could just cut that out, all those little pieces out, and then you would have a separate, you would do your base in one color, and then you would go over with the other little bitty stencils over it and do all those layers of stenciling, which is totally fine too. You could definitely do that. Okay, so let's say we want the welcome in blue. All right. So I'm going to go over here in my layers screen, and I can close that out if I don't want to look at it, but I like to have it up. So let's see, I look down here And I've got my welcome here, right? Let's see. Whoops. That just makes it disappear if I don't want to look at it. So color sync. Let's go here. What's happening? Oh, I see. It's asking me if I want to combine, like, if I want my welcome to be coral, I could drag and drop that to coral, but I don't. I want it to be a different color. So I forgot that I can do it a different way. So hold on, let me show you. This is easier. So I highlight it, and you see here, right here where it says fill, I'm going to pick my color. So maybe I want it to be, if I want a custom color, I would go to advanced, and I could choose, like, you know, I move this little dot, and that's going to allow me to pick a different color. So let's say I want a custom color. Maybe I want it a little more greenish. And there you go. There's your, then you can say, oh, I like that in the coral or whatever. And let's say I want to make my flower pink. Let's see, what's a good pink color? All right, so I'm just, my shades are there, and I can move my little dot, and maybe I don't want it purple, I want it like more pinkish. So there we go. And that will give you, if you're someone who really needs to kind of see what the visuals are, it's not going to cut any differently because you're not, because the vinyl is the vinyl. But if you were doing a, like I know Catherine does a lot of iron-ons. So if you were doing iron-on and you wanted to do different colors of vinyl and do iron-ons that way, which works similarly to a stencil, only instead of weeding out the parts that you paint, you're leaving those pieces and you're weeding out the opposite. And so for that, you would maybe use your colors because you'd say, okay, I know that this one I want to cut separately because I'm doing heat transfer vinyl. And I want it to be on the blue. So that's going to prompt me to put my blue vinyl on the mat before I cut this word out. So that's one of the most important, I think, why they have the color choices for you there too. Is for when you're doing decals or iron-ons or things like that. So it works virtually the same way though. Once you learn how to make a stencil, you can do the same thing making iron-ons. You're just doing kind of like the opposite as far as how you prep your vinyl. And also that comes sometimes in more layers, and that's like a different class. But if that gives you a sense, like if you're someone who can just jump in and practice, all the tools that I'm teaching you in this class, you could apply to doing the heat transfer vinyl or the decals. So there's that. Okay. And obviously because I'm cutting on black vinyl, it's not going to matter. But if I were doing heat transfer, I would say, okay, I want that to be on blue, I want this to be black, and I want that to be pink. I wouldn't necessarily group all of this together because I wouldn't want it all cut on the same vinyl piece, if that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and group these again because I don't want to lose track here. And then I want to group and then attach and watch what happens to the colors. They all turn to one color again. And if it's easier for me to look at black, I can just go to color and then click black. And there we go. There it is. So that's kind of how that works. And then I want to show you if I were using, let's say I wanted to do, this one, but I wanted to make another one. And the other one, I wanted to have the state in it. And I want the state to have a little camper in the middle. Excuse me, I don't know what is going on with my voice. I'm going to get rid of that. Get rid of this. I just want a really clean space for us to look at, okay? I'm going to get rid of that because that flower would work virtually the same way, right? So this is the part that you would be, this is the part that would get painted, and this is the part that wouldn't. It would have like whatever color was underneath. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. This one here I wanted to show you. Let's say I wanted to do the bicycle, but I didn't want the flower. I'm going to, again, ungroup and move my flower and get rid of the flower. Okay, and then that's all one solid piece connected anyway. So I could do a bicycle on that spot. You know, there's just so many different things you can do. But with a bicycle, you have to be careful about proportions because it would look funny if it was like that, you know? So you have to think about your proportions and those little cuts that are there. So I'm going to get rid of the O because I know I don't want to use that. I'm going to kind of clean up my space a little bit. All right, so let's say I'm like, all right, I want to make a bunch of these, but I want each one to be different. And the next one I make, I want to do the state. And I don't know, my cursor is really sensitive, so it keeps moving my screen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate this because that'll save me some time, okay? I'm on a tablet and I can't find the color. All right, so you have to go to layers. All right, so when you're on layers, look at your right-hand side, and then you're gonna click on whatever, like if it's the welcome, you're gonna click on that and your color wheel should pop up. Let me know if it doesn't and I'll help you. Let me see. Okay. So I'm going to duplicate this. So I'm going to go over here to duplicate. Again, if you're on an iPad, it's at the bottom. It's under actions. Duplicate. All right, so I've got this guy over here. He's already done. Let's say I'm going to set him down here so he's out of the way. I'm going to go back to this one. And again, you guys, I'm going to detach. Let's see if what that does. Yeah, see, this is all still connected. So then I'm going to ungroup. All right, now I'm going to take the flower because now everything's ungrouped. But let's say I wanted to change the font of this, I could still, you know, edit that. I can still click on that. Now that it's ungrouped and I created it as one text box, I can still go back and change the font of that too. I could go to here and change it to, I don't know, let's do this one. Ah! That's a different language. All right, hold on. Oh, you can also do bold and italic too up there, but let's stick with the simple stuff for now. Because I don't want to get you guys all overwhelmed. I want you to get going with it, and then we can really like try some different things. Once you like feel like you have a good handle on it. Let's do, I don't like any of these. Hold on. All right, let's do this one. Just see what happens. All right, so I just changed that font because now that it's ungrouped, and it's back to its original form, I can edit it again. Oh, good, Becky. Okay. So, so just keep that in mind too. When it's all grouped together, you can't really go back and change your text. But when you get it back to its original form, if that was an original text box, then you can edit it again. So I'm going to go back and I'm just going to give it back to the one we just had because I like that one better. All right, so now I'm going to go here and I'm going to pull this guy out. Okay, I'll leave it over here in case I need to use it. And let's say I want to make the state of New Hampshire or wherever you live, and I want a little camper on this, or a lot of people do little hearts. If you wanted a heart, you could go over here to shapes, and it would pull up a bunch of different shapes. Okay, so, but I already put the camper in here, so I want to try that and see what happens. So I'm going to unlock it. And actually, I'm going to pull this. I don't really need that there right now. I just want to make sure it's the right size. And it looks about right. So I'm going to mess around with my camper. And remember, this is going to get small, okay? So I don't want it to be so small that the Cricut can't cut it. So do you see how it kind of disappears behind? That little X is going to tell you where it is, all right? If you're using the iPad, it's going to be a little bit different. But let's say I want it kind of in the center of the state, or maybe my friend lives here and I want it a little higher. But keep in mind, you want some room around the image, and that's where that box shows you the area that the image takes up. You don't want it cut to like this edge of your exterior image, if that makes sense. All right, so why is that moving? It's like moving by itself. So then I'm going to highlight the whole thing. And then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to hit slice down in the right. So I know my image is there. That little X tells me like, okay, it's there. I just can't see it. So now I hit slice. So now watch what happens. I'm going to pull away that image, pull away that, and I'm left with a little camper design on my New Hampshire. How cool is that, you guys? So this is the other thing I want to tell you. So if you're weeding your image, and maybe we should do this one, maybe this is the one I should do to show you, because when you weed this, you're going to pull your New Hampshire shape off, and you're going to leave this little guy behind. So the majority of the shape of your camper is going to be the color of your base coat, whereas this is going to be painted a different color. And I'll show you that. Isn't that so cool? So like a bajillion ways you can use that one trick. And that's why I kept our sign simple but super versatile today, because you can do so many things just knowing these few little tricks. Okay. So let's let that be our sign today that I do. I don't know if we'll have time to do the entire like painting process, but we'll see. I may have to go on live again, and then I have to move my camera around to show you how I, throw it through the printer. Through the Cricut and all that. So, all right. So let me just finish this up, and then what we'll do is, I don't want to get rid of that. It's super cute. I am going to get rid of this. Get rid of that because I kept that there just to make sure I could show you. I'm going to clean up my canvas so I'm only cutting what I want to cut. And this is the part that could really mess you up if you don't save it. So make sure you save it. So first I'm going to go here and I'm going to align it. So don't forget to do that. Whoops. Get rid of these. I'm going to go here. I'm going to align. Center horizontally. Whoops, that happened again, you guys, because I forgot. What did I forget to do? I'm going to undo. What did I forget to do? I forgot to group, right? And then this is already grouped and that's already grouped. Okay, so let's try that again. We're going to highlight and we're going to align. Center horizontally. It looks like I had it pretty much lined up anyway. And then I'm going to make sure that it's grouped and attached. So if the group option is there for you, you know it's not grouped yet. So group, attach, and let's make sure this one is grouped. The group isn't there, so I know it's, and the detach is there, so I know it's attached. So now I'm just going to make sure it's the size I want it to be. And then, yep, that's about right. I'm going to leave it here. That's about right. Yep. Okay. So now you guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut my, image. All right. And so the way you do it, yes, you guys are on it. Group and attach. Nice job. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead over here and I'm going to save it again because I've made changes and those are not going to automatically save. So I'm just going to click on save. This is so fun. I hope you guys aren't bored out of your minds, but I find this stuff fascinating. Okay. So then you're going to go to make it. So you can see I have a 12 by 24 mat because I make big signs. Like I make a lot of custom signs for people. But you can do a lot with a 12 by 24. So until you get the gist of it, you might not want to rush out and buy one, but you can, having one on hand is great because then it saves you a lot of time and energy as far as like being able to do bigger signs without having to cut and piece your stencil together. So you can see that's where my stencil's sitting. I'm going to move it and center it a little bit, but I don't want to do that one yet. I want to do this one. So I'm going to click on the box over here. This is the one I want to cut. I'm just going to kind of center it a little bit because I'm not using any more vinyl. Like I'm not doing any more stencils on here. And I'm not going to do a mirror image because it's not a iron-on decal or anything like that. I'm doing just a cut file, so it doesn't have to be mirror. And then we want to go to continue. and it's going to ask me, whoops, that should be attached. So I have my Bluetooth on. If you're using an iPad or an iPhone, have your Bluetooth on, and it should, if you registered your machine, it should recognize it in your Cricut Design Space. If you have trouble, just call their tech support. They have really good support. So this might take a minute. So see how it says set materials, load the mat, press and go. It pretty much walks you through the whole thing. I don't know why that's not working. Should be taking this long. Yep, okay. It just did a little click. So, all right, so my favorite is saved, which is my stencil vinyl. But you can browse all materials here. You can go to popular. So if I go through all this in one of the videos. So yes, definitely don't feel like you have to watch this whole thing through and through today. Go back, watch some of the videos, but this is like the culmination of the first couple videos that I have. So I'm just going to go to, I have a video that shows you how to do all that, but I'm just going to go to stencil vinyl, and then it'll say like no tool required in clamp A because you're not using a pen. You're loading your fine point blade in clamp B, and then you're going, and you're going to, you know, load your mat and get going. So I will show you how to do that part next. I'm going to click out of the live and come back in and show you how I do the painting part. Okay, guys? So I'll see you in just a second. I'm going to reset. I'm going to turn up my heat too. It's freezing in here. I'm going to reset my camera so that it's in a space where you can see me work, and show you what to do next.